Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Ago, Director of Programming at the USC School of Cinematic Arts. And tonight we're going to be hosting a special USC comedy event, live Q&A with Cody Heller, discussing her Quibi original comedy, Dummy. The USC comedy program started in 2010. USC became the first university in the nation to actually offer a program dedicated to training filmmakers in the art of comedy. And we offer instruction in writing, directing, and production, as well as history and theory of comedy. So that's a bunch of classes that you can potentially watch and take online in the fall. I'm sure
Can I enroll? Can I enroll? Because that sounds so great.
You should be teaching, but I definitely think that our comedy program would love to have you back when we're teaching classes in the fall. I do want to just give a quick intro to Cody from some of her bio. She recently wrote and created Dummy, which is loosely based on Heller's relationship with Dan Harmon and stars Anna Kendrick as Heller, who discovers her boyfriend Dan has a sex doll named Barbara. Some of Cody's other work is writing the comedy series Wilfred, which, by the way, now that I think about it, we had Eric Schreier on. And I asked Schreier, the head of FX.
Oh, Schreier, yeah.
And I asked him, you know, what's like the one show that you really wish had been able to connect with a larger audience?
Yeah.
And he was like, it was Wilfred.
I loved working on Wilfred. That was such an amazing experience. Yeah.
And of course, Cody also co-created DEADBEAT for Hulu. And most recently wrote on the series Kidding for Showtime, starring Jim Carrey, which I love to talk about as well. So Dummy is now available on Quibi. You guys have had however many weeks since we had Jeffrey Katzenberg on.
They had a free trial that was, I think, a 3-month free trial, but I think it just expired. But you know, I'll make the offer. If anyone wants to check out Dummy, does not have the means to financially, you know, commit to another subscription, I will personally pay for 1 month subscription for up to, I don't know. I've been making this commitment a lot over town, so I have to manage my money here wisely. But you know, if you join live and you've made the commitment to be here and you want to watch Dummy, but you don't have Quibi and you don't want to pay, Instagram DM me. I will Venmo you a month's subscription so you can check out the show.
Wow.
You know, that's, I mean, desperate times call for desperate measures. Check out my show.
That could really get out of hand quickly.
I know.
So there's obviously two really big things about the show that I want to talk about in terms of the creative process. The first one being the concept. But let's start with actually telling a story that's sort of a fictionalized version of your own life. Where did that idea come from?
Where did the idea to write Dummy come from?
No, specifically to write something where you yourself are portrayed as the protagonist.
I didn't decide that beforehand. Like, the idea of Dummy happened, and then I was like, is it just funnier and cooler to keep it meta? Because at the time I wrote it it was intended to be a spec script, which, you know, for you students out there, you know, you have a pilot that serves as your sort of calling card to get staffed on other shows and whatnot. So I originally wrote Dummy just to be that, and left the names in just because I thought, as someone who in the past has had to hire writers, like when I worked on DEADBEAT, I remember the scripts that stand out would usually have, you know, not a gimmick per se, but like, I just thought leaving the names in was kind of funnier. So I approached Dan about it once I wrote it. He was totally cool and supportive, and I decided to keep the names in. But it wasn't like working backwards, like I want to make something autobiographical, and now how do I find that story? It was more just like, the thing happened in my life, it inspired a story, and then I decided that embracing the reality of it by using our real names was like kind of a cooler way to do it. I don't know.
How close to the truth is the story that you wrote?
So I don't know, you know, how many episodes or if any people have seen, but in real life, when I started dating my now fiance, Dan Harmon, who, you know, created Community, is now a co-creator on Rick and Morty, when we started dating, this was now almost 5 years ago, we decided like, let's have a really different sort of relationship than we've ever had before. Let's put everything on the table right away, be super honest, share all of our kinks and watch porn together. And just like, you know, I don't know, this is a school, how like X-rated can I get? But we started having these conversations very early on. And I feel like it was on our like second date that he said, like, told me that he had a sex doll. And it wasn't like a secret, because he had this podcast and he would talk about it on the podcast. It wasn't like this secret thing. But I didn't know. I hadn't listened to the podcast, so it was news to me. And I was like, oh, and I kind of absorbed it and was like, told myself it was totally cool, made up like a nickname for it, and was just like, yeah, whatever. It's just an inanimate object, like whatever. It's not a big deal. And then the deeper we got into our relationship and the closer we got and the more time I was spending at his place, because when we first started dating, I was in New York shooting Deadbeat. He was in LA. It was like long distance for a few months. And then when it got like serious and I was back in LA, I would find myself at night, like thinking about like where, like what closet is she in and is she here? And like just thinking about her and humanizing her. And I was like, this is such a fascinating thing. And then in the meantime, like at the same time that all that was going on, I had recently parted ways with my old writing partner, who I did Deadbeat with and who's great. And we're still just amazing friends, and he's awesome writer. But I was at that point in my career where I was like almost turning 30, and I was like, I think I want to tell more female-centric stories, and having this male writing partner has been amazing, and I like loved everything about every second of what I got out of that partnership. But it was like time to go out on my own. And so, you know, as that the way it goes is like my agents were like, great, but now you need a new sample to serve as like a thing for getting you staffed on other shows. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll write a new script. I'll write a new pilot. And I was really struggling trying to write this pilot. I kind of joke about it in the show, the Tooth Fairy pilot that she's like working on. That's like really shitty. It's like, it was this very high concept, whatever idea. And basically one night, and you know, Dan and I have only been dating like less than a year at this point, but I idolize him as this like way more successful, prolific writer, producer than I am or ever will be. And there's this like, this sick thing that's going on in my head that like, it's all coming together. And basically I wrote Dummy out of like this place of desperation where I was having so much trouble writing on my own with this other project that I then sort of abandoned. And Dan was the one who gave the advice, but it was kind of in the context of a fight where he was like, I was coming to him and being like, what do you think should happen in act 2 of this like devil comedy pilot thing? And he was like, you know, you have to do the work. Like maybe you're not a writer. Maybe you just like the idea of being a writer. And I like realized it was so harsh and I was so upset that I was like, yeah, I'm asking, I'm scared of getting it wrong. So I'm asking people I look up to like give me answers and tell me how to tell a story. And no one else can do that. I have to do it if I'm going to do this. And so he gave this great advice of like, put that script aside, start over with a new document, write like a sarcastically bad script, like write something that you'll never show anyone just to get it out of your system. And I was like, all right, fine, fuck you. Like it all converged. And I was like, I'm gonna write about the fucking sex doll. Like, what if we became friends? And like, we actually got along better than you, like, you don't, you know, like it just all came into this thing where I decided to write that. And, you know, in my head thinking, I'll probably never show this to anyone. It's just this vomit draft to get this thing out of my system. And then I wrote it and I was like, I kind of like this. And then, you know, obviously I had to have Dan read it first, which was like a nerve-wracking experience in its own right. But then, you know, it was always intended to just be this spec pilot. And then through a series of really fortunate events, mostly this guy, Colin Davis, who used to work at TBS. And so we had a general meeting. He had read the spec pilot. We developed it into a 15-minute show that was going to be this new late night thing that was going to launch on TBS. That wound up dying. Like the process of like it being like a thing to like, oh, it's almost going to happen, to like it's not going to happen at all, to like, oh my god, you know, it's with so many projects. I feel like that's the classic tale of like, there's so many moments where you think like, oh, I'll never make that now and whatever, and you kind of mourn it and you move on. And for me, I was like, the TBS thing was so exciting. We were ready to go. We were going to shoot it, and then it all fell apart. And at that point I was working on Kidding. So I was like, well, you know, I'm sad because I really liked that project and it was kind of my baby, and I'm depressed for a little bit, but like life goes on. And then like a year later, I got a call from Colin Davis, the TBS executive, who had just left TBS to go work at this new place called Quibi. And he was like, I know you haven't heard of it yet because it doesn't exist yet, but I gave Jeffrey Katzenberg your 7 15-minute scripts and he loved them and he wants to meet. And it was like, this incredible, it just all then happened so fast. And then it was like, holy shit, we're shooting it. And then Anna Kendrick's interested. And that, just the everything takes forever until it doesn't. And then it's like, you have no time. Which I think just in this business is something to like keep in mind of like not letting yourself get too down. Cause like there's so many projects where it goes through so many iterations where you think it's going to happen and then it dies and you mourn it and you're so sad, but like you never know what's going to get resurrected and what's going to happen. And you kind of just have to trust like the process and that there's some reason for it being delayed at that point and it's meant to be somewhere else and that kind of stuff.
It's interesting that you started off envisioning it as a 15-minute episodic.
Well, I didn't originally. I wrote it as just like a half-hour pilot. The original spec script is like a 35, 34-page pilot. Then I had this meeting with Colin Davis at TBS who had read it, and I was just going out on the town, like taking generals now that I'm a writer without Brett, like to kind of reestablish, take those general meetings. In the meantime, I'm also working on shows and all of that, but like trying to reestablish myself as a solo writer. And it was during that general meeting with Colin Davis where he was like, hey, we're going to try doing this like Adult Swim, like short form, late night, like you can be edgy. And I think Dummy would be perfect. So I then went off and took that pilot, deconstructed it, took pieces of it, put it all over the room and did 7 15-minute episodes of a show. And that's how it existed for a time. And then it didn't get made. And then those were the scripts that Jeffrey read. And then I took those 7 15-minute scripts and I adapted those into 10 10-minute scripts. Mm-hmm. So it was all kind of like a puzzle. Like the scripting and the work of it all was a lot of like putting things together, taking them apart, putting them back together in different ways. And like, I think that was for the best. Like I'm happy with that, the idea that happened naturally because of the different iterations of it becoming a reality. But I think it made for like better scripts because I got to sort of sit with the material and then come back to it and like puzzle pieces be like, okay, this piece I thought went here, but now that I'm looking at it from this angle, it's more like it probably should go, So it was a very interesting process, very new for me who's, come from mostly just doing all half-hour comedy, which is always like a specific required length of time.
Yeah. The structure of the Quibi episodes, it's fascinating to actually look at this from a writing standpoint because Jeffrey Katzenberg, when he was talking to us, talked about how they're each, they have to have the same beats as a regular, like full length.
Like they need to each function as a fully contained episode that in itself is satisfying, but at the same time leave you wanting more with some sort of cliffhanger, and it varies. If it's Most Dangerous Game, obviously it's going to be like a life or death thing, but like with my show, it could be something very silly. But I think, that is his sort of like ideology of the short form storytelling, which I embraced and thought I was very happy with how it turned out for my show, specifically because it is such a small, intimate show that like, if I had done the half-hour version, I would have had to go into B and C stories with other characters and like, that's cool, but it's a very different show. And there's something about just the intimacy of it just being really about Cody and Barbara / like Cody and her own inner voice, that I felt like really sort of suited itself to the 10-minute format.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that the structure, you see it when you watch the episodes, exactly that feeling of like both sort of satisfaction at having watched something sort of complete within, just that one episode, but then wanting more. And I'm curious if is that particularly hard to write? And what are your, what's your advice for coming up with, the sort of the full arc within such a short episode?
I mean, it's hard to say because I went to film school for directing. So like I did do some in high school. I did some like TV studio, like making short films and like little things like that. But in college, I really did a lot of commercials. So telling a story in 30 seconds is like a really crazy challenge. And then, it's all about having a beginning, a middle, and an end that satisfies, that hits you in that spot where you go like, oh, yes. And for me, there's like 4 ingredients that I kind of look for in anything, that it's not necessarily having anything to do with story formula, but like if something is funny, sad, strange, and beautiful, those 4 things. And I don't know, my friend Simon is the one who first like pointed those out, and he's a brilliant guy. I can't remember his last name right now, but he is in the film world and he's incredible. But I do think he pinpointed, like for me, it's all about within those 10 or less minutes having a beginning, a middle, and an end, and having some sort of emotional connection slash catharsis, maybe not a full catharsis because you're in, only episode 2 or 3, but like having it feel like you went on some sort of journey and something happened, and it's not just like resetting, which I think, with old school sitcoms, it was all about like resetting every episode the same relationships. Like things would happen, things would go crazy, but like at the beginning of the next episode, Lucy and Ethel are still best friends, and Lucy and Ricky are still married and all that. But with serialized television, it's obviously, you can tell stories in a whole new way. And I think that in particular lends itself to like the cliffhanger, sort of like, oh, you want to know what happens next because like there's more coming. Mm-hmm. So that to me was like a fun challenge to just make sure that was part of what I was doing. But I think instinctually, I hopefully would have gone that way anyway. And like I said, it was a different situation than some other creators at Quibi, because I came in with these 7 15-minute scripts that he read and liked and reacted to. And it was more just adapting those into like the particulars of the format. So yeah, was that a boring answer? So boring.
No, not at all. I was thinking when I was watching the show that, Anna Kendrick can be very funny, but this is maybe the funniest. Like it's somehow like the perfect comedic role for her. I'm curious to know how, because she's playing like a version of you.
I mean, in a lot of ways, she is the straight woman in the pair between them, but still she is so funny. And yes, I definitely remember early on when her name came up being like, oh, I think she's an incredible actress, but like, have I ever seen her in something where she's kind of doing what I'm going for, which is like, it is me, but it's a version of me. It doesn't have to be so on the nose. It has to be there enough that it makes sense. And so I kind of went into our initial meeting being like, well, I know she's an incredible actress. Let's see how we vibe. And it was just like a 4.5 hour long dinner where by the end we were like, I love you. Like just completely, on the same page, sensibility wise, talked about all kinds of like everything that the script brought up of us wanting to like dish and be like, what are your, like just started getting really deep and into it and trusting each other. And, she's not only an actress in it, she's an executive producer, and she was truly like a real partner in the project in a way where I'm like so lucky and happy that it worked out, because you never know, like we met once for a dinner and then like we agreed to do this thing together, and then we got to know each other and we're like, shit, we really like each other. We work really well together, but you never know. So it's risky. Hey, Nigel, stop. Sorry, my dog.
Meredith Hagin is also like off the charts in this.
She's amazing.
I'm curious how you end up casting her, and if she's ever performing any of this, like
it is all live. Yes, she's there all the time. So basically, we had such little time to prepare what wound up being like, obviously this huge undertaking of like having a character that is a sex doll that animates and moves. So our initial methodology didn't totally work out. But the point is, let me back up a little bit. When we were casting for the role of Barbara, we already knew Anna was going to be Cody and she was executive producer. And like now it was like, who's going to be Barbara? We're watching audition tapes, lots of like amazing, amazing actresses. So many people that would have been brilliant in the part. But on like the last day of auditions, it was mostly callbacks. So I was there to like do the callbacks so that I could like meet them and kind of read with them and see what kind of person they were. But Meredith, it wasn't a callback. It was like she was doing us a favor. She's kind of like big time, like offer only, but she liked the material. So she was like gonna audition. And she came in the room and like did this audition where I just like, Nigel, stop. Where she blew my mind in a way where I was like, holy shit, this whole time I thought Barbara was like this and this and this, but like she's actually like this and this. Like she brought a whole new side to Barbara that then like I found myself going back through all the scripts and making sure like, let me make sure this fits in her voice, which is so specific and so funny because obviously the character is delivering such caustic, mean, hurling insults constantly, but she does it with Meredith. She does it with this sweetness and this like thing that you can't help but love. So she was just so incredible. And I just was like, that's Barbara. And then there was this moment where I was like nervous because I sent the like top couple people to Anna, and I knew Anna enough by them, but still it was new. And she was an executive producer. And I was like, I want to have your okay on like my choice. I'm not going to tell you who my choice is. Watch these 3 and then let's talk. And I was like so scared, like just like, please let it be Meredith, please. And we got on the phone and we were both like, she had the same experience where she was like, I think she's going to like the other one, but I really want it to be Meredith. And we just knew at that moment that like, it was Meredith. And then Meredith wound up just being so incredible. The two of them, their rapport, it was, I mean, truly like a magical, I could not have wished it to go any better. But one thing that Meredith, I will say, like, number one, she's just hilarious. Everything she does, she's just so naturally comedic. But she was faced with this challenge that I'm just like, she blows my mind because basically on the first day of filming, the doll head shows up. That's like, it's such a long story, but like the doll head is supposed to look like Meredith. Like we got a cast made of her face, but when it shows up on the first day of filming, like it doesn't really look like her. And we're like, oh shit, but like can't do anything about it now. Gotta shoot. We start going. And then the VFX supervisor is like, by the way, you know, Meredith can't move like at all because she has tracking markers on her face. And so basically she's not just doing a vocal performance. Her performance was translated using motion capture, I guess is the word, but it's like tracking markers using her face and then applying those expressions and that performance to the 3D model that we wound up building in post. So she had the challenge of she can't move her neck or body when she acts because we need to keep track of those tracking markers. And if they move, then it's not going to work. So she just like fucking took it in her stride and was just suddenly like acting without moving and doing these micro nuanced expressions with her face where I was just like, she's incredible. So it was truly, I mean, I love both Anna and Meredith so dearly. And so I was just like, it was an incredible pairing of kooky women that want to talk about crazy shit.
One more casting question, because you cast one of our USC comedy professors, Wayne Federman, in this. And
Wayne, I actually kind of wrote that part for Wayne. I know Wayne. We have like friends in common. One of my good friends, Debbie, used to be roommates with Wayne. And so I go way back with him. And when I was writing the original old school 4.5 years ago, the spec pilot version of this, when I was writing the character of Stu, I was like, this has got to be Wayne Federman. And then like we got to make it and he fucking did it. And it was amazing. And I love Mishpuka. I love Wayne so much. Yeah, he was great.
So what kind of feedback did you get from Quibi? Is once you'd gotten the thumbs up?
Like once we were done shooting, like on the show itself, or what?
Just like generally speaking, like how involved are they in the creative side of things?
They are super impressive in that like they're the perfect amount involved. Like I will say we did some reshoots based on some notes that they had that were like really smart notes that like I was too close to the material to see the thing, but like I was like, yeah, you're right, we're gonna do a reshoot anyway, let's reshoot that scene. But like typically they were very, very like deferential to me, and like I mean, I can't imagine, I've never been in an experience where I had that much artistic freedom and power, because they truly were just like, yeah, it's your show. Like sometimes there would be a thing that would come up and I'd be like, I really strongly believe this, and we would talk it out, and like, you know, but I also am just a very collaborative person. So I'm really open to other people's advice. And I'm lucky that Quibi like always had really smart notes. But they were incredible to work with. I don't think I could have made this anywhere else. I think Jeffrey believed in this insane thing. And the fact that he let me like go all the places I want to go and loved it. Like he's been like a huge supporter, which is, it's cool to have this, you know, this legendary dude who's like, you know, getting on in years and just like this kind of dad guy, and he's like quoting lines from like this raunchy thing that I wrote. It was like a very cool moment when we first met, but he's continued to be such a support and so amazing. And I am really grateful that it wound up there, because I just don't think I could have made this specific show anywhere else.
Yeah, it's funny, when he was recommending it to us the night that we were talking about Quibi, he was describing it in detail, and I think he was like blushing a little bit.
I love that.
But now, you
So
know,
kind. I love him. Yeah.
you drive around Los Angeles, and most of the Quibi posters that you see up are dummy posters. So like,
I haven't been driving around Los Angeles, so I haven't seen. The one time I went, I had to take my dog to the vet, like right when it was coming out, and I knew there was going to be like a bus shelter one, so I was like, I'm going to try to drive by it. And I went and I found it, and it had already had graffiti of like a dick and a mouth. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. I finally made it. It felt like better than it not being graffitied. So it was cool.
what kind of feedback do you get in terms of how well it's doing? I'm curious, because obviously it's a whole new platform.
I think it's doing really well. You know, they don't like technically share the information. Like I think a lot of streaming platforms have sort of complied to this for whatever reason, of just like not sharing the real data. But I do know that if you go on Quibi and you go to like homepage, there's like a trending option, and Dummy has been in the like, you know, one of the top trenders since it came out, which is pretty cool, because they've come out with tons of different shows since then, and it's kind of stayed like relevant, that's awesome. I just, you know, I hope as many people as possible watch it, because I am proud of the show and I think it's cool and funny. And
you'll pay them to watch the first.
I will pay you.
Which, by the way, we're up to 42. So.
Oh, hold on. I was talking about the first 24. You guys are in.
Was there a discussion of sort of like the longevity of the series? Did you have to kind of pitch where it would go after a first season?
Not really. It was just a first season at that point. And then, you know, we've had discussions, and I think we're still like figuring out like, you know, if we're going to do a second season or not, but it's not, the door is not closed on that. So that's exciting. So we'll see. So
you obviously are definitely taking some big swings on outrageous material, but I'm curious if there was anything that was so out there that you had to rein it back in.
I already like told this story on some interview and whatever. Now it's this weird thing now where I've done like a couple of interviews and things where I'm like, oh, now I'm repeating the same stories. Like I'm an asshole. But the answer is there was this one day. So in episode, spoiler alert, at the end of episode 9, can I do the spoiler alert? Yeah, I said it. You can always skip ahead. Barbara and Cody hook up at the end of episode 9. And the way that it is now is just like it's the lead up and then like this gentle kiss, and then we fade out and pick up the next episode and find out sort of that they hooked up like intensely. I wanted to shoot the scene of them like hooking up like a lot, and it wasn't because it was just the way that I had it scripted. I really did imagine shooting it beautifully with like sun dappling them and like just making it really beautiful. So on the day we get there, and Anna's like, and we're like, you know, homies by then. And Anna's like, I'm not doing the scene. Like, she ended up being right. She was like, we're not going to need it. You're not going to want to show all of that. It's going to become like, you know, Captain America, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be, yeah, like it's going to become like a joke. And I was like, maybe you're right, but like, for safety, isn't it just better to have it? And she was like fighting me. And then she's like, all right, get me a bottle of wine and I'll see what I can do. So we like had a PA go and bring a bottle of wine, and like she did a little more, but she was like so freaked out by like the texture of the doll. And she, you know, she didn't go down on the doll as I requested politely. But the bottom line is she wound up being right. I'm so much happier with how that cut works, with like ending it on that and then starting the next episode with like the therapist's office where you're recapping, and that's so much funnier. So that's where, you know, going back to just what we were talking about earlier about like that collaborative spirit, to me, I think things only get better in TV and film when you are open to those collaborations, because if everyone's coming to it in a place of like, let's make the best thing possible in a playful, fun spirit, then like you're going to make the best thing possible. So anyway, but I did not get Anna to go down on Barbara the sex doll, as I had previously.
I mean, there's always
and then also I had to VFX the fart in the pilot. Anna doesn't think fart jokes are funny. I think they're hilarious. We differ on that one thing. That's pretty much it. Everything else, like, we get along perfectly. But like the fart joke thing on the day, she was like, "You're not going to do the fart, are you?" And I was like, "Yeah, we're going to do the fart. Like, it's in the script. The fart stays in the picture." And then she was like, "All right, well, like," and I was like, "I'm going to add it in post." And she's like, "Okay, but like, can you not make it too loud?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm making it so loud." Like, we were just joking about this added fart. And honestly, still to this day, it probably makes me laugh harder than any other moment in the show, just because the backstory of it being this thing that like I knew would piss Anna off. And I do think farts are hilarious, and they're natural, and women fart a lot when they pee. Like, it's a very natural thing to pee and then fart. And I feel like we should normalize that a little more.
Mm-hmm.
Representation matters.
Have you heard back about another season?
It's like all being talked about. I feel like with Corona, it's kind of put everything in this totally different, everything is kind of in this weird limbo. And so I don't know, but I think it's very possible. It's very possible. If enough people subscribe,
I mean,
I'll pay for up to 24 of them. Then who knows? Anything can happen.
I would watch a Zoom call between the two of them.
Aw, no, I know. I mean, off the top of my head, I have a million story ideas because they are so funny and great together. So I do hope that we get the chance to tell more of their stories and witness more of their shenanigans, because I think they're a really fun buddy pair.
And it seems like Anna is now like the face of both Quibi and
HBO Max. I know. I feel like an asshole. I haven't watched Love Life yet. I know I should. I think I'm a little jealous of, like, I know that she went off to do that right after Dummy, and I'm like, oh, which one do you like better? And it's like this teasy thing, and I'm like, I signed up for it, and like I haven't watched it yet because I know I'm just scared to be like, oh, you like it better than me, because just now our codependent relationship that has become a meta snake eating its own tail situation. But anyway. Yeah, she is the queen of all new platforms, as she should be. I cannot speak highly enough of this woman. Like, her talent is fucking insane.
Yeah. No, I mean, and she's getting roles that I think are really perfect for her comic timing and her range. I mean, it's great. So just out of curiosity, I know some writer friends of mine have been having a bit of like writer's block during the pandemic, and I'm curious to know how you're like, how is this affecting your creativity?
Definitely, yeah. No writing is getting done. no writing is getting. Thinking is getting done, and I think right now, for me personally, it's really become more about like the Black Lives Matter movement, and everything that's going on has caused like a very necessary, and like, I think I speak for a lot of my, at least white friends, when I say that, like, we're all now, everything is kind of on the back burner till we all look at our white privilege and white supremacy and go like, wait a second, hold on, like, we got to deal with some shit. So I feel like with writing, I am lucky enough that I had sold something right before quarantine, so I got enough money to qualify for health insurance. So I'm not like I'm very privileged. I'm not in a situation where like I have to get a job right now. So yeah, it is a really hard time to write. And I have found myself like, whatever comes next, it's not going to just be like life goes on as normal. Like, our world has been shaken to its core for all the right reasons. And it's a moment in history. So I can't like go on being like, all right, what's my next show about? The Tooth Fairy does this, like there's a moment of like reckoning and self-reflection that I feel like I am going through. And I feel like many other writers that I'm friends with are also kind of contending with at the moment. But I'm hopeful and I'm excited to do the work to help what I can in terms of representation and how that affects systemic racism. And like, I feel like I've been you know, called to war to be like, yeah, I am here. What do I need to do? Like, send me to the front of the line. Like, what do you need me to do here to help? So that's sort of been like my mindset currently. But, you know, I'm reading a ton of submissions from, so I in my Instagram posts, I use the term BIPOC because I've been reading Me and White Supremacy, and that's the term she uses, and it's all over Twitter. And I thought BIPOC, you know, Black, Indigenous, people of color, was the preferred term. And then one of my best friends who's Black was like, don't use that word. Like, she shamed me about it. And I was like, I don't know what the right word is. The point is, I'm going to make a lot of mistakes along the way, but I did do a lot of, like, not soul searching, but just like thinking back about my own career. And, you know, season one of Dummy, it was so crucial to me to have as many women department heads, female director, woman cinematographer, like as many department heads needed to be women, because the show is so female centric. And I felt like I'm the showrunner. I have the power to lead and make these decisions. So I'm going to use it for that purpose. And now I look back and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty much all white women. Like, you know, like everything is changing so fast, and I'm so happy it is, but now it's a call to action for white people to wake up and fix the mess that has been made by us. So yeah. What was the original question? I feel like I have one other point I was going to.
You had writer's block, but I agree. There should never be another moment where we don't think about it, you know, how are we doing justice to voices that are traditionally repressed by the gatekeepers?
For sure. And what I was going to say is, like, what kind of occurred to me was how few Black writers I've worked with in my career, you know, in rooms. And so I had this like amazing conversation with my management where I was like, you know, do you guys rep that many Black writers or people of color, you know, like what, and we had this great conversation where it ended with me being like, are you cool to take on this sort of like initiative with me where I make a call out for any, I use the word BIPOC, but maybe I should have used a different word, marginalized, but like any writers that, I mean, to me specifically, I'm interested in reading women of color right now, but I made this call out and was like, listen, I will do whatever I can. Like, my managers are like down to read a bunch of submissions, and there were over 80 submissions, and they're signing a bunch of people, and I've got to read all of these amazing pieces of writing that I would not have read if this whole thing didn't happen. And I'm making these new connections. And so, like, you know, I am trying to see the brightness and the optimism in the moment of like being like, okay, let's do this and make this good for everyone.
Yeah. I guarantee you there's a whole generation of exceptionally talented, you know, Black MFA graduates from our screening program who could, you know, use extra opportunities out there. So.
Yes. So that has been, you know, one teeny tiny, like the smallest way possible for me to use my privilege in some way that's like, yeah, let me help some unrepresented writers get represented. Like, we need that. So that's been super cool and fulfilling, and connecting with cool people and meeting new people during this like social isolation, just doing like FaceTimes with new people and kind of being like, okay, I have like a purpose for waking up in the morning now, other than my dogs and my fiance.
I want to start involving the audience, but I wanted to just let everyone out there know, send us your questions in the Q&A box, and then I'll call on you. And if you wanted to turn on your video, I'll invite you over to be a panelist for a minute so that you can ask your question live. And you don't have to turn on your video when you get switched over, but in that case, just turn on your mic so that we can hear you. And so, okay, let's start with Carrie Larson. Carrie, give me a second. I'm gonna move you over.
Carrie Larson in the house.
All right.
Hi. I don't want video.
Carrie, I want to see you. Okay, fine.
No. Well, you might see me later. We're actually working on a campaign to help market the show.
Oh my God, amazing.
With influencers, yeah. So we might be doing a Twitter party. You probably heard about it. Anyway, I love the show.
Thank you.
Actually, one was, I was just curious where you came up with the name Barbara for the doll. And the second one was, you'd be honest, it took me a few episodes to really warm up to the whole vibe. And I was just wondering, and then once I did, it was literally like after episode 3, I'm like, oh, I get it and I love it and I want more of it and I can't get enough of it. But were you or are you worried about people abandoning the show because they're just of the shock value of it all?
I mean, it's not for everyone, and I knew that going into it, so I didn't want to like shy away from that at all, because I was either like, I'm either going to do the show that to me is like the funny, cool, interesting show, or not do it at all, but doing like a medium, like lukewarm version where we can like make it safer for people to like get on board wasn't really appealing to me. So that's one answer. And then number 2 is Barbara is named after this little dog, Barbara, who's my dog that I've had for 11 years. I found her on the street, and she is the one that I, kind of talk to when I'm writing, and I'll pitch her stuff and she'll look at me and be like, that's awful. And, so Barbara is named after Barbara, who's named after Barbara Stanwyck, my favorite film noir actress. So there's a long line of Barbaras.
Very cute. Very cute. Thank you.
Thanks, Carrie.
Good luck with it all.
Carrie, I'm moving you back to attendee, and let's go to Cameron Gavinsky.
Gavinsk. We got the Gavinsk. Come on, people, show your faces. Like, let's see some faces. Why not? Cameron, come on. Cameron, show yourself. Like, come on. We're all just humans. Who cares?
Hello. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
We're together. I'm sorry. Is that okay that there's 2 in 1?
Which one is Cameron?
I have that shirt. Oh my God, I have that Planet of the Apes shirt.
You got this Planet of the Apes shirt?
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, no. I have a very similar shirt to that one, except at the end, instead of having the surfboard, it's like a Planet of the Apes shirt, so they turn into like Cornelius or something.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, no, this is surfing.
Do you like this one though? Is this one okay?
I like it.
It's cool.
Okay, so Cameron, and then who else do we have besides Cameron?
I'm Chris.
This is Chris.
Okay, Chris, and I see your B movie thing in the background.
Yeah, B-movie signed by Jeffrey Katzenberg.
The one in the
Yes, founder of Quibi.
Yes.
We're big fans.
Huge. I love that.
We have it framed. It's on the wall.
Oh my God. Wait, are you guys brothers or just friends?
We're almost brothers.
We're
friends,
we're very
but
close to
we're
brothers.
very close.
Okay, I like that.
But we've seen all of Dummy season 1, and we rewatched it this morning in preparation for this. We're big fans.
We're big fans.
Oh,
And,
you guys, that's so nice.
It's so fun. It's so funny.
very good. It's
We
very
love it so
fun.
much.
Yeah.
And we hope there's a season 2. And Cody, we got some big ideas for season 2.
We got some ideas.
I don't know if you
season 2.
see this whole manuscript.
Oh, you guys. I love you guys.
We love you, Cody.
We love you.
Oh, you guys are the best. Cameron and Chris, right? Chris?
Us.
You guys are the best.
Well, you're the best, Cody.
You guys are.
Our question is,
Yeah.
do you want a hero?
The ideas?
Do I want to hear your ideas? Absolutely. Tell me.
Dummy season 2.
Do I want to hear? Wait, I think legally I'm not allowed to hear Dummy season 2 ideas for real.
Season 3 ideas.
How about
Is that the contract?
how about like just a random right now come up with an idea of a movie that we'll make together. A movie.
Perfect.
The year is 1711.
Okay.
We open on the open seas.
Okay.
Waves crashing. Where in the ocean? Hard to tell.
But there's a pirate named Red Toe the Pirate.
Why is he called that? Well, that's what gets the viewers interested, Cody. That's
Red Toe?
Yes, Red Toe's the pirate.
So early on, he takes cannon fire. He opens his telescope. Who's firing at me? Who could it be? It's Barbara.
Barbara the dummy.
Oh!
This isn't season 2. This is the dummy universe. What's this? Barbara's been around for longer than we thought.
No, you know what? I do think you're onto something. I love that. And I do think Barbara is like, there is a version, and I'm not going to say this anywhere else, where Barbara is actually God by the end of it.
Insider info.
And her whole purpose is like to dismantle patriarchy. Like she's the ultimate matriarch. She's the goddess, like the true goddess who's more powerful than God. And all of this is just like part of her whole plan to like, you know, get domination again.
That sounds wonderful.
Are you guys in?
Yeah,
100% we're in.
So we'll
she could plunder gold in there as well.
Oh yeah, she definitely does. Yeah, always. Yeah.
So what you're saying is you're in, and we'll DM you details, and we'll start working on it.
It's happening
tomorrow.
It's happening. Yeah. Let's we'll set up a Zoom.
All right, great.
Same time, same place. B movie in the background, and no, but you guys are awesome, and you're really funny, and I don't know what your you know, I don't know if you're students of the class and you know each other. Like, are you the teacher, Alex, to them, or no?
We're Alex's teacher.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I think you guys are awesome, and I encourage you to you know, make stuff, because you obviously are fucking hilarious and have voices that are unique, and you should be making cool stuff that I can't wait to watch.
Oh, well, that's very kind. Well, we'll keep watching Dummy, and we were excited about the potential of more Dummy. We're big fans. Thank you for making it.
You guys have made my night. That's so precious and sweet, and I really appreciate it. I'm so glad also that it hit with not just women. I'm very glad that it hit with.
We're not women. I don't know if you can tell.
No, and if you know, but I'm glad. I'm glad. You guys are fucking rad. I love it. Am I allowed to even say fuck during a USC lecture thing, or is it not a lecture? It's like a casual thing.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, we graduated.
Okay.
We're no longer students. We're just unemployed adults sitting at home waiting for the next USC Q&A session.
Oh God.
We gotta go.
You guys got it. You guys got the gift. You're gonna make it. I believe in you guys. You got something going on.
Well, we hope to see more Dummy and more Cody in general, and other things you're making.
And I hope to see some more Cameron and Chris. Like, I want to see that out in the real world, like fucking billboards, bus shelters with a dick in its mouth. Like, I'm ready for it.
Careful what you wish for. It's coming.
You'll regret it.
All right, guys.
Thank you, Alex. See you back out to see you.
You guys are the best. Bye.
Okay, so no pressure, Jordan Chervitz, but you're up next, and
Jordan Chervitz. Is it going to be a guy or girl, Jordan? What do we think?
Ooh,
Chervitz. Jordan Chervitz. I think it's going to be a guy. Oh, I kind of guessed. Well, I saw it. I'm lying. I kind of saw it.
Good guess. Good guess. Sorry about that.
What up?
Hi, Cody. Thank you for doing this. I'm a huge fan of you and Dan. And I really loved season 1 of Dummy. Like them, I would love to see more Dummy. I really liked your voice and your humor in it. Yeah, just really great. Every episode kind of blew me away. But do you mind if I ask a Wilfred question?
Yeah, I would love it.
Okay, so yeah, Wilfred is definitely the show that inspired me to want to be a screenwriter, and definitely like set the tone for the things that I like, because like you said earlier, I think you used the words funny, strange, and beautiful. And I would just agree that, you know, Wilfred is definitely exhibits all of those. And so I guess my question is, like, at what point did you know how Wilfred was going to end? Did you always know, or was that something you figured out along the way?
Well, honestly, I left between seasons 3 and 4 to go work on Deadbeat, but it was always we kind of always knew, yes.
Wow. And so was it fun to play with some of the like red herring ideas to throw people off? That was maybe more 3 and 4. I guess I didn't know if you were there.
I feel like that was more 4, because I was on 2 and 3, and we knew we had always kept kind of the options open, and so we hadn't committed to it as much as them when they got to season 4. But yeah. I love that.
Are there any other?
I'm friends with all of those writers. I'm actually kind of writing something with one of those writers right now. Such a great group and such a fun show and such an amazing. And also, I found Barbara like maybe less than a year before I started writing on that show. So she had so much, there were so many Barbara-isms within the show that were inspired by her antics.
Yeah, the dog jokes are so clever. The whole show is a masterpiece. Really good job. I guess, were there any other like challenges or highlights during your time you spent there?
On Wilfred, not really. It was really a great. I was I think staff writer the first season, my first season there, which was season 2, and then I think we moved up to like executive story editor. The highlight I would say was, did you watch the whole show?
Yeah.
The ayahuasca episode?
Is that like when they're in the woods looking for the cult, or is that earlier?
No. It's in like, I think it's season 2. Wilfred doses Ryan with ayahuasca and he goes on this like weird spirit guide journey thing and like.
Oh yeah.
So basically that episode we were in the writer's room, and Brett, my old writing partner, and I, we knew that we were going to be writing that episode, and we broke a version in the room. And after work that day, Brett was going to drive me home and we were in his car, and I was like, I hate this episode. Like, I don't like it. It's not figured out. And everyone in the room kind of knew, like, do your best with this outline, see if it works. If not, we'll talk about it tomorrow. But it was our first real job that we really we cared so deeply. So we stayed in the garage of wherever we were shooting, and worked all night and came up with a whole new episode, which was the ayahuasca episode. And then the next day came in and like pitched it, but we're like staff writers. We're like the lowest on the totem pole, and David Zuckerman and Eli Journet and Reed Agnew, like all, and Jason Gann, like all the, top people, they all loved it. And it was this triumph where it was like, holy shit, they like this, that we went out on a limb and tried just like making this whole new thing, and they liked it. And that was a big highlight.
That's so awesome. Well, thank you for making all your stuff, and thanks for talking to us tonight.
Thanks, Jordan. I appreciate your support. You're awesome, dude.
Thanks.
Okay, we have a question from Jeffrey Wang, but Jeffrey had to leave. So I'm just going to read it.
Okay. Oh.
Did the actors spend any specific time with you to learn your mannerisms or idiosyncrasies?
I mean, Anna and I became truly like actual friends, but I think she was playing a version of me that she wasn't like trying to capture I think the version of Cody that exists on the page and in the show is a slightly different version than me, because if you think about it, like Barbara and Cody are both sort of part of the same person split in half in a way. So Cody on the page is a little more like neurotic than I am. So I think Anna just did her version, and I thought she fucking nailed it. And to me, I was never like, it has to be, because it was just beyond, it wasn't about it being specific to me. It was like, this is a character now, and Anna is like amazing at interpreting it. So yeah, it wasn't like that, but there definitely were really funny moments where, like, because she was playing me, I would show up on set and like go get my seat at Video Village, and she would come out of her trailer for like the first scene, and we'd be wearing like the same exact outfit, because like wardrobe used my aesthetic to like craft her wardrobe. And so we'd be wearing like a beanie and a thing, and like we looked the same. So that was fun. And then I also, like, throughout the whole thing, I had this like show within the show for Instagram where I was like trying to get Anna Kendrick to follow me on Instagram, which she to this day still does not. But we just had like a lot of fun on set. It was just, it was just really funny. And like little things like Dan, the actor that plays Dan, he wears like a shirt that's like Dan's real life's best friend's brand. Like just these stupid little meta things that are like literally my own inside jokes that would make me laugh.
Well, actually, I was going to ask how close is the performance to Dan's like real life personality?
Not very much. Basically, I love Donal. He's amazing, the actor who played him. But basically what happened was we were so short on time. We had to find someone. What was really important to me was like I knew that the Dan character was going to be he's a smaller character. It's really a love / friendship story between Cody and Barbara, and Dan is just the conduit, that connects them. And I didn't want him to be like this huge part of the show. But I did want him to look enough like real Dan that like it would be kind of funny, I guess. So we were having so much trouble. We couldn't think of anyone. And then like I went away for the weekend to like do some rewrites. And I was sometimes I'll just go away to the desert in like a hotel and just like, barricade myself in. But of course, like I wasn't getting writing done. And then I like got really high and I like fell asleep and Law and Order was on. And I like woke up in the middle of the night and Law and Order was on and Donal Logue was on as Declan Murphy, his character. And I like looked at him and I was like, oh my God, that's Dan, that's the guy. And I like emailed my agents in the middle of the night and I was like, can we find out Donal Logue's availability? And it all sort of worked out. I will say like they're very different, but it didn't matter to me. I think Donal's like an amazing actor and it was awesome, but it's not like the version of Donal is like, oh my God, that's so much like Dan, which is similar to, Anna is not totally like me. And none of that mattered because it was like, this is the fictionalized version of it. So yeah.
Well, I really can't wait to see more of this. So I hope you guys are able to, we're all obviously in similar boats, especially for everyone that's hoping to get back into production. So
yeah.
But I hope there's some good news from Quibi soon. And, and then,
I really appreciate talking to you and to how many people. What's our number right now?
We're now at 34.
34. That's my lucky number. Great. I love it. No, it's been such a pleasure. And thank you to all the nice people who came in and said nice things and had questions that I hopefully gave good answers to. And I hope, I wish everyone health and sanity and to love your loved ones and, all that.
Thank you so much, Cody. I honestly...
I can answer more questions, by the way. I didn't know if it was like it felt like a wrap up, right? We're wrapping up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, did I just like suddenly overtake you and be like, all right, I'm leaving, bye?
No. It was my transition, my pivot to concluding the discussion. But I'd love to have you join us on campus sometime when that's actually possible. So
I would love that. Yes. So great to meet you. Thank you so much for the time, and thank you to everybody.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.